Hey, this is Cole cutting in to say thanks for listening, and also to remind you that an awesome thing you can do to support us is to go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Check out the rewards that we have up there and, become a part of the community, even more so than you already are by listening. Once again, that is patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thanks.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a umbilical favorite.
It is a transcended favorite. And this week we are talking about the end game of the main portion of Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm. And even though this may seem strange because the DLC does recontextualize some of this, this is how the game exists for a lot of people and existed for us the first time we played it. So we're doing the actual end before we do the DLCs.
Yes.
Similar to how we did Dark Souls 2, dissimilar to how we did Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
But it's just it just ended up, we're kind of just doing what our experience was and doing it in that order. So we're still covering the DLCs, but for now we're pretend like you don't have them.
Yeah, and we're also giving you extra time to play the DLCs if you so choose.
Yeah, they're new, so we don't want to spoil them. Like so we'll make some references to things that like, oh, this is kind of a little different because of the DLC, but we won't cover it now. We'll cover it during when it's revealed in the DLC. Yeah. So, yeah. So, and this is just me and Cole as is traditional during our Endgame episodes. We like to talk about the final boss alone. we all die alone.
Yep.
So, as does the season, which is not dead. But,
no.
Let's talk about chords.
Yeah. So throughout the main game, we have alluded to the existence of these chords, starting as back as early as kind
First, you got diminished G. And it goes a little something like this.
You got a seventh chord, feels a little bit jazzy, a little bit something like
jazzy.
this.
Then you like to drop that into a minor and you go, ooh, baby, that's minor. Ooh, baby, that's sad sounding.
Play that chord again a little bit later.
Yep. That guy's coming back to resolve my dick. Yeah. No, of course, we're talking about umbilical chords.
Yep.
The original jazz instrument when you were born, baby.
Given what shows up a little bit later.
Hey, man.
Yeah, but we found one of these like in the workshop, and we got one of these after killing Murgo's Wetners. And these are really, really tied in to the to the end game and really into what's going on here. All of them have different descriptions on them, but all of them begin with the following kind of couple of sentences, also known as the chord of the eye. Every infant great one has this precursor to the umbilical cord. Every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. Use it to gain insight, and so, they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what this truly entails.
Yeah, and we find out soon. Even though it says 1/3 of an umbilical cord or third of umbilical cord, there are actually 4 in the game.
Yes.
And this is a rare From Software kind of nod to, ease of, or, kind of usability, and that you don't, if you miss one of these, because 2 of them at least are missable.
Yeah. I
want to say, you can get the other ones. Or 3, actually 3 of them are missable. You're just one of them you're going to get for sure. So they want you to be able to get the ending, and we'll talk about this when we actually get to how this articulates. But out of the weird, the From Software classic kind of binary endings, this one has the most kind of ludic consequence.
Yeah,
like you're cheating yourself out of a lot of stuff. Like if you make the choice that it gives you, if you make it the way that ends the game, like you lose a boss fight. If you don't do this at a little thing, you lose a second boss fight. Like we mentioned before, that Murgo's Wetners can be the last boss of the game.
Right.
That's if you're going for one of the endings, that's what happens. Which they haven't really done that before.
No.
There's a little bit of that with Scholar of the First Sin, but that feels more like a bonus because you have to really kind of go out of your way do that one thing and pursue this, and going out of the way thematically fits because you're pursuing this kind of third path. This is just very it's a little harsh, with having the automatic, pop into New Game Plus thing that happens.
Definitely. Whenever I go onto YouTube to kind of refresh myself of these endings, I always think, all right, so I see all 3 endings in succession here. They probably just messed with the cloud saves, to be honest.
Totally,
to get that back.
It's unlikely that's what's going to happen, and that's not how I did it. Like I got to the end and I went for the best ending. I was like, okay, it's the end of the game. If there's optional boss fight stuff, I want to do it. So I tried to find a non-spoiler way to spoil it for myself, tell me what to do, and then watch the quote unquote bad endings on YouTube because, at that point I feel like it didn't matter that much that my character hadn't done them. I didn't want to fuck around with the cloud save to do it. That seems unnecessary.
And unreliable too.
Oh yeah, totally.
I would so worry about messing that up.
Yeah, YouTube is everyone's cloud save. So,
for sure. So like we said, there are 4 of these in the game, and these are kind of linked together. We find some notes on the main path. We called them out, but I want to call them up again. In the lecture building, there's a room with kind of this bloody cage and 2 notes that say, the nameless moon presence beckoned by Lawrence and his associates, pale blood, and then 3 third chords. And this is kind of the recipe that we have for the end game.
Yeah, this kind of teaches you, one, we haven't seen the word pale blood in a while.
Right.
After the pale blood moon comes up, we get that, behold, a pale blood sky. And we get in the very beginning of the game, but we haven't really heard about that in a while. So this is a reference to that and how it ties into the end game, and then just telling you how many chords you need to do. The first one you're likely to find if you're being diligent exploring is in the abandoned workshop, and it's on an altar. And the unique text to this, again, they all have that beginning text. And it says, the third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream.
Yeah. So this one right here, beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. We're going to kind of tie all this stuff together, but understand that this is linking the purpose of the hunter's dream to kind of this ascension, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other one we just got here in the season by defeating Murgo's wet nurse and slaying the nightmare.
This is the mandatory one.
Yes.
You have to get this. So at the very least, like even though it's easy to miss these, it's kind of kind that they have 1/3 in their name. So if you just kind of go through the game and you're not doing any exploration, you're going to find this, and it hints at the existence of at least 2 other ones.
Yeah, actually it means it's 1/3 scale. It's a translation area.
Yeah, it's a tiny little action figure.
Yep.
So I can set up my Mego toys.
Yep.
At Mego's Wet Nurse, where I set up little tiny Spider-Man and Captain America to give birth to each other. They may call for a doula. Flip.
It's snippity snap.
Yeah. Snicked bub.
The text on this the text on this chord says that this granted Mensis the audience with Mergo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. So this is kind of the artifact that kind of seals the deal with all of their bloody rituals to kind of break the veil and go through and make contact.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
Nope.
So as we talked about at length with Mikolash and the like, and the School of Mensis, like that is a dead end.
They were not ready.
Yep, and that's why that is this weird nightmare where they're just kind of tortured for eternity until they go insane and we go kill them.
Evolution without courage.
Exactly, yep. You get another by finishing Ariana's quest. So after killing Rom, Ariana, the Lady of the Night, will be keeled over in the Erden Chapel saying, there's something wrong with me. And after we kill Mikolash, she leaves a trail of blood down into the tomb of Erden. And this is one of my favorite things that's happened in like a Souls game.
Yep.
This set piece and coming across this was like just really, really more so like people talk about the Rom thing where it's like, oh, there's a lady with a bloody dress. Like that is affecting.
Yep.
But it just felt like a cutscene to me. And maybe it's because it was a cutscene and I wasn't in control of the play. So I was like, oh, this is the game telling me something. The fact that I had to kind of look for this and follow that trail of blood made this really horrific.
Yeah. And
this is a really, really dark character ending in a series where like
this has Sigmire.
This is I think this is darker than Sigmire.
Oh, definitely. This is
you mean the series has Sigmire? Yeah. The series, and everybody really.
Well, yeah. Like this has Sigmire. This has the bad end for Solaire. There's definitely a pantheon of despair here.
Yes, but this is something about giving, and I always feel a little uncomfortable about it because it's a little there's implied kind of assault in it. It's an immaculate conception, so it's not that, but like there's a lack of body autonomy in women when you're getting pregnant with monster babies.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's kind of a little bit where like some kind of one strain of body horror comes from, right? This is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, which is terrifying to me. Like that is, I realize that I'll never be pregnant. Foreshadowing. But the like it is the idea of giving, like literally giving birth to a monster freaks me the fuck out, and of course that breaks your brain, which is exactly what happens to our buddy Ariana. Yeah,
so you go down and you hear two sounds. You hear a woman sobbing, and you hear chirping that sounds like it should be coming out of like an Ewok or something. Like it's real cute. I'll cut some in here.
It's super adorable.
but this chirping is coming out of something that we've seen before. We saw these up in the upper cathedral ward, these eraser head slug babies that are covered with kind of these eye buds.
Yeah, that look like kind of like vagina things.
Yeah,
these weird little Yonic eye buds. And you run into Ariana, and she's sobbing, and she says,
"It can't be. This is a nightmare." What have I done?
And then the sobs turn into insane laughter because her brain is broken because of this thing that's come out of her body. And this is a real good example of a mercy killing.
Yes.
Like you should murder her for her shoes, not for the shoes. They're not like Air Ariana's, but you should murder her because it is, where she's hopelessly insane at this point.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I definitely did the same thing. Like this here, and I think that there's some speculation that she doesn't actually die here because when you go to examine her, it doesn't say search corpse. It says like pick up item or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't read too much into that, but
so when you kill somebody, I don't think it says search corpse. I think it says search corpse when it's a corpse in the environment. I think if you just go up to, like, if you walk up to Eileen and kill her, I think there's just an item floating on the ground and you just pick it up. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like search corpse is specific to like placed items.
Okay.
Not kind of the diegetic ones from your own personal murders.
Yeah. Your own personal.
Yeah.
That is a weird Smith song.
Or Depeche Mode.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I get those confused.
It's okay.
But oh man, so I am right to kind of discount any attempt to read into that.
If you wanted to read into it, it would be that she has a connection because she dresses like the Canehurst nobles, and that's how Queen Annalise doesn't die.
Right.
But also Queen Annalise leaves behind, like, you can't actually destroy Queen Annalise. You have to. There's always a little bit remaining, and that's not the case with Ariana. So I don't see a lot to that. But if it makes you happy, works for me.
Yeah. Her cord has a description that goes that goes into a little bit more detail, kind of implying the provenance of this creature. Every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate, and Erden, the formless great one, is no different. To think it was corrupted blood that began this eldritch liaison. So two things here. Erden implied to be responsible for this.
He's the baby daddy.
Yep. And corrupted blood possibly leads to the link between Ariana and,
the Vile Bloods.
Yeah, Canehurst and the Vile Bloods.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like the more that I think about that part of the story, like I still don't find that very satisfying.
Neither do I.
The Canehurst stuff. Yeah. I love that area, but lore-wise, I'm just not that interested in it. Like, I buy all of the theories. I don't know how much of this we talked about in the Canehurst episode, but this idea, like, these are the descended Thumerians. That's why they have this power and stuff. And the actual cutscene and the characters that happen in there, and the idea of her sending out these summons and, like, having hunters come out to go gather blood semen for her. Essentially, like that's really cool. But the actual like, oh, maybe she's actually secretly more important and she has this tie to Ariana, and like nothing comes of Ariana other than that she's able to have this baby.
Yeah.
You know, which is important. Like I'm not saying that's not important, but it's just not very like it's not very interesting to me. It feels not developed enough to be like really cool lore to me. If that makes sense. Like it just I can't get into it, and especially after the DLC, and we'll talk about this at length. Like I can't be fucking bothered with the Thumerians anymore. Like I don't care about the Thumerians. Like
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, if anything, it says two things: that Ariana is possibly separated, and something about her blood makes her able to become a blood saint without being part of the church. And also it makes her a vessel for this Great One, which it's implied that Annalise strove to be, but ultimately failed to be.
Yeah.
So.
So the final chord you can get, another really disturbing scene, comes from Imposter Yosefka. So you have to let her live. If you go in there and kind of do the little boss fight with her, which we mentioned, the hunter fight with her, if you let her live until the blood moon, you'll find her up in the clinic on all fours. Which I feel like that's some kind of like position associated with like
it is
Lamaze or something.
With birth, I think, and please forgive me if this isn't the case. That used to be the way that people gave birth before hips realigned due to evolution. I think like humans are the only primates or something that give birth generally now on the back, and childbirth is really dangerous for humans because of the way that hips kind of gave. So I always took, at least in playing this, her attempting to give birth on all fours to be kind of like a nod to the beastly, otherworldly side of this, or the primal side of this. Yeah.
It's it's unsettling regardless whether the historical basis in it. Like it just looks a little bit surreal. Yeah. And her dialogue here is really great. Not to put an editing thing on you, but you should.
No, I was definitely intending to do that. It's man, all the deliveries in this are crazy.
Yeah, the voice acting in this game is really good.
Yeah, so let's hear it.
Gosh, this oblivious fool. God, I'm nauseous. Have you felt this? It's progressing. I can see things. I knew it. I'm different. I'm no beast. Oh, God, it feels awful. But it proves that I'm chosen. Don't you see how they writhe inside my head? It's rather rapturous.
And she, instead of being broken by this, feels like she is, living into her purpose.
Yeah, which I mean, she kind of is. And her chord has the dialogue. It says, Provost Willem sought the chord in order to elevate his being and thoughts to those of the Great One by lining his brain with eyes. The only choice he knew if man were ever to match their greatness, and there is capitalized.
Yes.
So again, that's par for the course for Willem. But the chord, it's just connecting further with the chord as being what they need to do.
So yeah, this is the one that kind of like pieced it together for me whenever I had this like, oh, the like insight and eyes on the inside. What like you need to do something with this in order to get that.
Yep. So you eat these umbilical cords the same way people do with placentas and stuff. Yeah, which I think is gross.
No judgments.
Well, I mean, some judgment. I think it's pretty gross. Like gross is a judgment. I think placenta's gross, dude. I'll throw some judgment on that. There's some shade if you're down there mowing down on at the placenta.
Some Senta,
yeah, it's not good. I don't practice Centauria. But each one gives you 3 insight. Which who cares mechanically, but it's just showing you that it's really potent. It's bigger than the Great One's wisdom, or the super insight item we get. This is stronger than that, so it's important that that number is a little bit higher. And you have to eat at least 3 of them.
Right. And so I've got a note in here that just kind of matches with my understanding of the macro story of this. each of these chords to me kind of represents, you've gotten these from four sources: the Hunters, the School of Mensis, the Choir, and then either the Church or Canehurst, depending on how you interpret Ariana's story. You only need three, but this kind of requires you to go through and see kind of the failed effects of these interactions between humans and the Great Ones.
Yeah, I don't like, they're not, I see that. I like that they're representing different things, but like calling them failed when like we're literally stopping them, two of them from actually happening.
Yep.
Like is going too far than I would think. Like it's associated with a group that had an imperfect relationship with the Great Ones, but like we don't know what was going to happen to baby Ariana.
Yeah.
Or baby Yosefka, I guess. Like,
I mean, it was probably going to go pray on the Upper Cathedral Ward. It was going to figure out how to use the elevator.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I was going to get up there. And like, we literally went and killed, Murgo.
Yep.
Like, we're stopping this. So calling them failed interactions is more than like I'm comfortable with. Just because we're taking an active stance in that.
So flawed or halted interactions.
Yeah, that we actively halt in most of the cases. Like the player actually has a sign in that. It is interesting that they're associated with those four kind of different camps, though.
Yeah. So there is a pretty cool scene that happens. Chances are you notice this right when you warped back from killing Murgo. But we decided to save this for this episode because it really is kind of contained in here. And this is, you get to the Hunter's Dream and the workshop is on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if it hadn't been in the notes like 1,000 times, this was where I put in Synecdoche, New York, the house that's always on fire. But
Gary, I need to talk to you about the way you pronounce that word.
Oh, what are you saying?
Synecdoche, like the literary device.
Schenectady. Well, which one's the city then?
Schenectady.
Schenectady?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought it wasn't that because that's the city.
Yes. No, it's Schenectady versus Synecdoche.
Okay.
Yeah.
Synecdoche.
Yep.
Okay. Well, very well.
there you go.
Good job. You win.
Sorry. But I wanted to stop that. But yes, it would go in the notes if it hasn't already been there. This is kind of a staple reference for us, and it's very surreal. And a lot of the responses kind of properly called out that this is unsettling because the Hunter's Dream has been your safe haven so far, right? And so that is kind of a horror game trope where they take a safe place and make it unsafe or alter it to make it feel more threatening, and that is very much the case here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's anything that just perpetually burns. I like that as a dream logic kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you walk up to the doll. The doll has some unique dialogue for you for now, where she says,
Good hunter, you have come. Dawn will soon break. This night and this dream will end. Gammon awaits you at the foot of the great tree. Go on, good hunter.
And early on, if you're exploring your Majula or your Firelink early on, you'll find a gate that you couldn't open.
Right.
Which is, it's really cool to, not only subvert this from a visual standpoint, but subvert it in a gameplay standpoint as well. And they do this a little bit in Demon Souls too. But not only is your starting area, I mean, I guess it's part of Firelink too. You go under Firelink to get to Ash Lake, or not Ash Lake, the kiln. But it's, it's literally right next door to your safe zone is where the final encounters in the game take place.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
They did that pretty well in in Resident Evil the remake too, because they changed the route to the final lab to be right underneath the grand staircase.
Yeah. Which makes sense as opposed to like wherever it was in Resident Evil 1 that's very sprawling. Like
it was through the trap tunnels. Yeah.
Yeah. And not as tight loop.
Yep. But this is definitely kind of closing the loop. And Gary, do you want to take a moment here to talk about the nature of the Hunter's Dream before we go and close the loop with Gehrman?
Yeah. Yeah. Even though like some of this, my understanding of the Hunter's Dream definitely comes from DLC knowledge. Or at least how I feel, what's there. But some of that stuff we could surmise. It's just some of the things are confirmed.
Yes.
Or further supported by it. So figuring out like what Gehrman's doing here, right? Like Gehrman's been kind of helping you and directing you, but why? And does he have a purpose? And we've gotten these hints throughout the game that like he's here under a kind of duress, right? Like he is upset. We can find him kind of whimpering about to Lawrence. He's waiting for Lawrence to do something.
Yeah, he's begging Lawrence and Willem, and I'll cut in this dialogue because, oh my gosh, like the way that it ends, I've got a bad reaction to hearing grown men cry. But I'll cut this in here as well.
Oh, Lawrence, Master Willem, somebody help me, unshackle me, please, anybody. I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please.
So he's not here under his free will.
No, unshackle me, please, anybody. I've had enough of this. Talking about just how this blocks all of his sight. And it can kind of be concluded a little bit that he's the host of this, right? That he is the one who is kind of keeping this pocket dimension open for whatever is going to be here, for whatever this pale blood is.
Yeah, and keep in mind, host is not necessarily like the dream or anything like that, as we found with Miko Lash. Like, these things are other dimensions. They're not necessarily, we're not inceptioning into him. So it doesn't mean the fact that after we kill him, it doesn't disappear. It does not necessarily mean anything.
Right. Yeah. And, kind of, I'll enter my supposition here, which is that this was kind of created and put together by Lawrence to kind of make sure that hunters never went away. The idea that you have this thing which brings hunters back into wherever the hunt takes place, as evidenced by the fact that Jura and Eileen, talk about, are you still dreaming or are you outside the dream? Kind of, relates to the fact that this is just an engine to provide soldiers for the hunt, as a way to kind of achieve this transcendence through a kind of a back door.
Yeah, I mean, you can get out of it because both those characters are out of it.
Yes.
Right. So like Eileen and Jura are not, so it's not like an airtight trap or anything like that. And that's what I would say, that like both those characters chose the bad ending, of this. And that's why they're out in the world with us. But the idea, like, so your take is that Lawrence wants the hunt to go on because he wants hunters to try to do what you do in the good ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm on board with that. Like, I don't think it's faulty or anything like that. It's hard for me to like ascribe that kind of current motivation to Lawrence. I mean, I guess if he said it and forget it and it's just going on.
Yeah.
Like maybe he set the wheels in motion, but the whole idea that comes up in the DLC, and we're kind of dancing around this. There's another explanation for why the hunters are perpetually doing this that I like more than that.
Yeah, I don't think that they're fundamentally incompatible, but we're going to have to talk about it later on because I think that the hunters are really victims in this.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
but it's weird. It's one of those things. It's similar to how I feel about the DLC, where like, if you have something that has to happen in the plot and that thing is B, having two A's to precipitate it is sloppy narrative construction. Like it's unnecessary to have two reasons for the same trap.
Yeah. Well, that is the I see them as two distinct traps though. The dream versus the nightmare.
No, I don't see that. I don't think that. I think that the DLC is referring to the dream.
Oh,
as well. That's what we'll fast forward about 15 seconds if you haven't played the DLC.
Jump to minute 31 to avoid DLC spoilers.
The idea that the hunters are perpetually cursed to keep doing this is, I think, a part of the cause, like the curse from the village. So that's the dream too. It's not necessarily the dream as in the place, but the dream as in the waking up over and over to do this hunt is their curse. Yeah,
and I could see the dream and kind of Lawrence's involvement in this being to use that curse to his advantage.
Yeah, I just don't ascribe that much motivation to Lawrence or that much active motivation. Like, it's hard for me to think of him as anything other than just a victim as well. Like, I don't think of him as a schemer or like a chess player in this any more than anyone else is. But I think part of the kind of the theming of this is that the chess players, none of them know how to play chess. Like, they're all trying to play checkers with chess pieces.
Yeah.
You know, him included. So it's really hard for me to think of him coming up with a complicated scheme like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even know.
I'm not trying to shoot you down. I'm just saying,
no,
like,
I don't even know how intentional it has to be either.
Yeah.
You know, just that, like, this could have been a happy accident that he stumbled upon a way to kind of achieve the perfection and achieve the ability to prepare this host, right, for ascension.
Yeah.
You know, that this just happened to be the way that it worked.
It's a weird thing for me to think of, and I'm sorry I'm making this hard for you to edit because it's definitely more than 15 seconds. But the idea that he just wants somebody to do it, and he doesn't have any interest in it being himself or any care. Like, he's fine with the idea of, like, this can be somebody hundreds of years down the way. I just want it to happen. That's an unreadable motivation for me, or an unrelatable motivation for me. And also sounds like something more like that Willem would do than Lawrence, at least based on what we have in the, from the game. Like, that the pursuit of knowledge for the sake of knowledge is a Bergenworth thing. Not a church thing, you know? Anywho.
But yeah, that's the way that I read it. We're back from the spoiler thing, and I'll put in something that says, "Hey, what time you can jump to?" But it is, it's
a pain in the ass.
But it is related at the very least. Yeah, but definitely something is going on here. Gehrman is kind of the linchpin of all of this, regardless of what the purpose of the hunters is right here. And everything is kind of drawn to a close as we have, concluded our business in the waking world, and everything is drawing to, what has to be done in the dream.
Yeah, and we're coming up where there's going to be an important character here, which there is very little said about. But there's a little bit, and you have to kind of hunt for it. So we're going to run into this character named the Moon Presence, and there's very little reference to this character. Right? There's a note in the lecture building that says that Lawrence beckoned a nameless moon presence, and that presides over the hunter's dream. Like, that might be it.
Yep.
Like, there's so little that references it.
Yeah.
Which is just really, really kind of interesting given how important it turns out to be. Yeah.
Yes, this is that same note ends with pale blood, just simply after almost as a postscript to it.
Yeah, just the sentence pale blood.
Yeah, that this is the mythical cure that you've been seeking out, or something that will bring some finality to this blood scourge. Yeah, at least that's what you've been led to believe by urban legend. Remember that you open up with this with the blood minister, kind of talking about, like, oh yes, you're here for this. Well, I've got a way for you to get it. And so,
and you're told to seek this pale blood. We can associate the pale blood with this moon presence. Even though the pale blood acts in, we'll talk about it when we get to the moon presence, but, like, doesn't bleed pale blood.
Nope.
Which, like, there's a lot of lorsters out there doing a lot of, like, killing things and checking out their blood.
Yeah. In general, kin bleed gray blood, and the doll bleeds pure white.
Yes. Which, like, is interesting, but especially with the DLC, I don't think the doll is a great one. Like, that's kind of that's where Ian B landed on his stuff, and I don't like that. Doesn't work for me with the DLC.
Right.
It ends up playing in this theming of, like, the DLC providing alternate, better explanations for things, at least in my mind. But so we associate pale blood at the very least with that gray blood of the kin. But yeah.
Right. So we're kind of getting into the final encounters here, where you open the gate and you come out on this field of white flowers and crucified beasts. And tell me, Gary, does this remind you of the fight with the boss?
Metal Gear Solid 3?
Yes. Yeah.
It's I don't know if it's intentional, because it's much more like the framing of it is I mean, it could be intentional. It's also weirdly anime-y. Like the positioning and the camera angles when you actually start talking.
So is Metal Gear.
Is it? I haven't played MGS3 in a while. I guess.
It's pretty anime when you get there.
Okay. Yeah. That might end up being intentional.
Yeah. Now let us eat cherry blossoms. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll never rid the world of anime the way I want to, or at least its influence on things I like. So somebody on Slack had the amazing thing where they were just like, they're talking about a game. They're like, it has a good story, but everyone talks in this terrible anime voice. And it just, what if they didn't? And I was like, yeah, what if they didn't? What if there weren't all these anime cliches? Everything, how many things would be better?
We're going to make people so mad.
Well, it's like, it's fine for when it's in anime.
Yep.
But this is this Lovecraftian horror thing. I don't need your weeaboo shit in here.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Anywho. Direct all complaints directly to me. Leave Cole alone. But anyway, like it's weird to me. Like it's very beautiful. It does feel weirdly out of place. The actual dialogue that he says and everything is great. I'm specifically talking about the cinematography. Feels weird to me. Yeah. But anywho, let's get to what happens.
Yes. So you're given a choice after Gehrman kind of gives his explanation, which I'll cut in here.
Good hunter, you've done well. The night is near its end. Now, I will show you mercy. You will die, forget the dream, and awake under the morning sun. You will be freed from this terrible hunter's dream.
He is saying basically it's like red pill or blue pill, right? And I'm not talking about like whether or not you think ladies are people. Yeah. But saying like,
didn't we say German was a man going his own way at some point?
No, we've said that about a couple of people recently.
That's Garrett. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. But just basically saying, hey, you can be freed from this. I'm offering you an exit, and the options are either submit your life or refuse. Now
and the exit is specifically like you will be free, which when we were talking earlier about Jura and Eileen, I think this is what they did.
Yes.
And this is how you no longer dream. Like, I feel like it's important in a game, in a From Software game where there are unreliable narrators. Like, I think this is a legit choice.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is actually something that he can give you, that he's being legitimate and being sincere about it. Mm-hmm. So
I think so. I don't know why he would want you to do this, because it kind of seems like he's perpetuating his own imprisonment by doing this.
I think he is. I don't know if he necessarily has a choice in offering this to you.
Okay.
I wonder if that's the case. Like, this is you signed a contract in the beginning of the game, which is like a really easy detail to forget about. Mm-hmm. It reminded me actually, and people hate Dark Souls too, but it reminded me of you'll end up at Drangley Castle and have no idea how you got there, or why you're there or what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, something said that ends up being important in the beginning of the game that ends up being important way, way, way later.
Yeah.
And that could be part of the contract. Like, you've done the thing that's required of you. So, like, if you want to end, you can end now.
Yeah. And this could be like, given everything that you've seen, do you believe what I am telling you right now? Which is offering you the temptation of basically the ability to walk away and ignore kind of what has been revealed about the nature of the world. Right.
Yeah. And it's, for being the bad ending, it's pretty good.
Yep.
Like, especially in the canon of Souls games, like where, so you can say yes. He stands up and chops your head off.
Yeah.
And then there's a brief scene and you wake up and it's daytime in Yharnam.
Yes.
It's the beginning of the next day. Mm-hmm. And, the thing that says Yharnam Sunrise is the trophy.
Yes. Which is a great cocktail at Sangria and Pim's Cup.
Yeah. It's very similar to, what is it? CJ and Patty are always talking about making things with Pims.
Yep.
But like, I tend to think of, especially since I use it in my thinking of the other endings, like trophy titles are canon.
Yes.
Like that's a reliable narrator. So this idea, like, hey, the night is over. I think that there isn't more a dream. You're not stuck in a perpetual I have no mouth and I'm a scream situation or anything. I think that's it. Like, I think you get out, and like all the Souls games before this, the kind of, there's never been like a you can quit option, like, and I really like, with this being as bleak and horrific as it is, there being that option. Like,
it's like that one ending of Vampire where you just like run away with Bender and Kane.
Yeah. And just let the world get blown up.
Yep.
Like, fuck everything. And like, it's kind of a good ending. Like, it's kind of a good ending for your character. And like, just not your problem. Like, go to
Nope.
another town.
Yeah, no,
You
just eat, drink, be merry. Live out
Yeah.
the rest of your life.
Stop drinking blood. Start drinking, soda pops.
Farewell, my keen hunter. Fear the blood.
Yeah, like this is somebody else's problem. And you know what? The cycle, this is the way that you break it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
You know.
it's at least the way you break it for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
yeah.
you know, so somebody else will come in, and in this nightmare, if you read what you've experienced here as a nightmare, if this nightmare version of Yharnam, you know, is actually a nightmare, it's for somebody else. And
Totally.
all of the players are going to keep on moving. Garriman is just going to sit there and get older and older,
Yep.
you know?
Like, you got caught. Like, you got catfished
Yep.
into this. Like, you were looking for a cure for whatever, blood disease you had, and you got catfished.
Yeah.
Like, and you, this is you saying, I got mine, I'm out. At least in my interpretation.
Yeah.
And it's not really like, but then the idea being is that they're putting you in the same position as the Bergenworth scholars and stuff, where can you do that after having seen these tantalizing glimpses of Eldritch truth?
Right.
So this is your chance to not be a Lovecraftian protagonist anymore. Like, people in Lovecraft stories, like whenever I play the Call of Cthulhu tabletop game, I always say, like, there's going to be points in the story where in real life you would quit your job and go move in with your parents and take a couple of years to regroup. For the sake of the magic circle, no one does that. Okay. Like, you can't just quit and play insurance accountant, the Gathering or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you have to pretend, at least, being curious and interested is a character prerequisite.
Yeah.
To participate in this game.
And there's nothing saying that everything works out great for the hunter. Like, we have to kind of take the, happily ever after as, for now. Right.
Yeah. Well, look at the hunters that we know that made it out. Like, they're both pretty haunted. Like, or at least, Jira is super haunted and trying to atone for this thing that he did. And then Eileen is still kind of carrying out this quest, and you can make the argument that, like, and she came from a far off land to do this, but if she was one of the hunters and was in the dream, she's going to be galvanized by the things she saw participating in the dream to kill blood drunk hunters. Which we end up finding out what happens to them, and she's not doing anybody any favors.
Nope.
Get him off the streets, I guess.
Yeah, pretty
get
much.
him in the sheets. But
get in the hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really it's kind of like the end of Breaking Bad, when that one character you think, oh, good for him, but then oh wait, no, actually,
years of therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At best.
It still feels amazing.
Yes.
But still, still good for him. But it's still there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
So or there's what is it, in Spec Ops: The Line, there's that there's a tooltip that pops up, or a loading screen thing where that suggests one of the characters that died is lucky because they just would have had PTSD for years. And it's like it comes up as a loading screen message, like, holy shit.
That's a bit dark. Okay.
He's the lucky one. Well, it is
it is a very dark game.
But the point being is that, like, it's weird, it's subversive and cool of From to hide the bad ending, like to have the easiest thing be kind of good for your character, and it's really thematically appropriate with this pursuit of hidden knowledge theme. Like, the easiest thing you can do is probably the best thing you can do in this game, and I would argue for, like, all three endings.
Yeah,
like, this is the one that at least has the most potential, that's not fraught with insanity and problems.
And to think about it, right? So is there any kind of, like, altruistic read you can take on kind of continuing into the dream and trying to, take the other ones, right? Like, so by walking away, are you condemning anyone to a terrible fate who doesn't deserve it? There are children involved, like we saw, with some of them, there is suffering that goes on here. I'm just kind of wondering if, like, this does make the hunter a jerk or not.
I mean, maybe, but also you got tricked into it.
Yeah.
Or like you could, there's a read that you got tricked into this, and it's really not, you can't, necessarily fix the world, especially given what we know with the other endings, which none of them are, like, shiny happy. Like, the ultimate, like, quote unquote good ending, the hardest ending to get, you could argue that once that kind of matures, it's possible that you can get some stuff done.
Yeah.
But boy, at that point, what is your frame of reference? Like,
yeah, like you're completely beyond the.
If you think Senator Slugman is going to worry about Ariana's like in the world, like you're out of your mind. Like,
well, the entire
Senator
point is that they
Slugman's
don't
only
care.
had to get elected. Yeah. Like he's after Senator Slugman gets into the presidential seat, like he is not going to worry about the Arianas of the world.
Oh man, those clowns. Those clowns in Slug Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like this is, the doll says, farewell, may you find your worth in the waking world. Like this is a personal victory. You have been trapped in this, and if not ascended comes later in the episode, but you have exceeded, right?
Yeah, and I like it a lot. Like we don't have a purely kind of selfish ending in these games, like as a thing where you can do and just be like, nope, and I like that as paired with the game where you see the most fucked up shit, especially right before the end. If you don't do that, if you say refuse, you get another one of my favorite dialogue reads in the game. This whole, and I'll leave it up to you to cut it in.
Dear, oh dear. What was it? The hunt? The blood? Or the horrible dream? Oh, it doesn't matter. It always comes down to the hunter's helper to clean up after these sorts of messes. Tonight, Gammon joins the hunt.
What an amazingly written line. Like, because it's so like, it's creepy because the hunter's helper sounds like a real kitty.
Yep.
Like it's real goofy, but like, boy, is it chilling the way it's read.
Yeah, no, he is totally talking down to you, right? Like you have stopped cooperating.
Yeah, and even before that part, like what was it? Was the hunt, the blood, or the horrible dream? Like what got to you that made you so attached to this that you are not? I don't think this was never the idea. Like they never wanted you to fight. Like so, part of the, and again, I don't want to get back into the spoiler zone part, but part of the reason why I don't think that they ever wanted you to kill Gurman. And fight him. Like he's an agent. Like he's an agent of, unless it's like he's a test.
I think like so. That's what I think it is. I think he's the rock tumbler. I think this whole thing is a rock tumbler, possibly.
Something about the way that he reads it and how condescending it is. It makes that feel weird to me.
He's a drill sergeant, man.
I don't know. We don't have to get into it. We can get into it over the next like 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Or just not get into it at all, because at the end of the day, we all have lives and families. We can just move on from arguing about Bloodborne interpretations. But like I love this. I love this dialogue. I really love this fight. Tonight Gurman joins the hunt.
Yes.
And,
gosh, and that's it over a blank screen. Like he has gotten up.
Yeah, he's been catfishing you as far as being in a wheelchair. Like he can walk.
I've seen spinals, man. I've seen spinals. He can walk.
Yeah, yeah. That guy can walk. That guy can walk. I'm sorry.
Man.
Yeah. How was I supposed to know?
But we are talking about the fight with Gehrman, the first hunter.
Which is awesome.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
In the main game, like this is probably the coolest hunter fight and the coolest like kind of dual style fight. Like I really like Logarius. I really like Mikolash. I like Gascoigne. This is really, really good.
Yeah. No, this definitely kind of fits in the Gwyn kind of category. He's not as pathetic as Gwyn is, but
he's not pathetic at all. Like he's really competent, I think. Yeah. Like you can parry him, but he's doing things you can't do, doing the same things you can do, but way better. Right. Whereas Gascoigne is it's fun fighting somebody with your moveset. This is somebody who has has your moveset plus. Like, it's not alien. It's just much better than yours, which is what he's supposed to be.
Yep. He's like, you know, like the book that you've been working out of. He wrote it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
You know,
and so he fights with this scythe that he has. And first he fights with it as a full scythe, and does these kind of sweeping attacks. He can zip around really fast, and this stage is fairly easy to stagger. Because it's Bloodborne, he has a second phase, but I don't actually mind this one.
No.
Because what it is he uses his trick weapon and transforms into a short blade and gets out his shotgun. Which there's a couple bits of BS where like he can stagger you when you're not attacking.
Yep.
Like for him, doing a stagger attack or visceral attack on you is just a move he can do. You know, you can just be walking and you kneel it down like I wasn't trying to do anything. You know, why'd I get staggered there? It's like a move for him. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
It's also, he starts using the Hunter's Bone too, so it gets harder to track.
Yeah. And the Hunter's Bone, we'll talk about where that came from later. But
Yes.
but that just means we've seen this a couple times before. But he can kind of like flash step around. I want to talk about his weapon a little bit. So this is the Burial Blade. This is kind of the template that all of the hunters like kind of trick weapons were built off of, according to its description. Point one is that it is made out of a metal that fell from the heavens called siderite, and this is there's another weapon that used this. I believe it might have been Eileen's weapons, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Eileen.
Okay.
Eileen's the other person who uses space metal.
Yes. And to read the description here, Gehrman surely saw the hunt as a dirge of farewell, wishing only that his prey might rest in peace, never again to awaken to another harrowing nightmare. So that, I just now looked this up, like I didn't think, Burial Blade, but yeah, that also can kind of give a little bit of motivation as to why he's trying to kill you. You know, as you're resisting, like he doesn't want you to suffer the fate that he has suffered, because we'll talk about what happens after you kill him, but he kind of knows what's waiting there, possibly.
Yeah. No, I think that's true too. He doesn't want you to suffer the same fate that you want him to suffer. I just don't think he necessarily wants you to do what the third option is,
right?
Which I think is that's where we're disagreeing. But I don't think he wants you to suffer at all. You know, which is kind of fundamentally kind of good. Yep. You know, because like he's a shithead, and we're gonna get into the DLC. Like he's a bad person,
right?
Like it's okay to have sympathy for Gehrman, but he's very bad. Everyone in the game is bad. They're bad people, and the DLC really underlined that for me, is that like, this is a world of shit and shitty people with shitty motivations that did terrible things, and I guess that recontextualizes that Yharnam Sunrise ending, where it's like, if you just want to be fuck this place, because
and that's
every
why
organization is pure evil, you know. Yeah.
That's why I asked, is there an altruistic read to continuing to kind of go into
I guess
this?
you're right. Yeah. There's not a like make the world burn ending like there is in Demon Souls, but boy would this deserve it. You know, if you can destroy every organization in Yharnam, you should. Because everybody here is awful.
Yeah, and maybe that's what you're doing, is by walking away, you're consigning it to its own kind of section of the dream world. Yeah,
but slow burn though, where they just continually get tortured. Like there's no like just raise the world or just start over or just give it up to the void. You know, in a quick fiery death, which would be merciful. But yeah, fuck it, no mercy for these guys.
So he powers up. He gets a lot quicker. His blunderbuss is crazy. Like once he breaks that out and starts going after you, really have to stay up on top of him, because otherwise that staggers you and makes you just easy target. And then he charges up and does this kind of glowing blue flame kind of thing. But mostly this is just a hunter fight.
Yeah, it's not too hard. Like he's a better hunter than you, but it's not too hard, especially after doing the DLC fights. Like this guy's not too bad.
Right.
But you murder him, and he dies, and he says, the night and the dream were long.
Right.
So,
and he's been here for hundreds of, if not hundreds of years, you know, just consider the state that Willem is in.
Yeah.
And, you know, both of them are, you know, kind of stuck to chairs, but they have been in this position for a very long time, if you assume that things have been fixed since the schism.
It's a long time to have RLS. You got the Jim Jams, restless leg syndrome.
Oh, okay. There we go. I thought you were saying ALS, and I was like, Tuesdays with Gehrman?
Oh, you're going to say too soon. I was like, you okay, buddy?
What? No.
Anywho, so let's say you ate no cords. Let's say you don't like eating things that aren't food. And
let's say you're not a BioShock protagonist.
Yes. Yeah. So you get an ending here, which I think is the worst one for you.
Yes.
As a character, and it is the worst ending, which is called Honoring Wishes.
Yes. So after you kill Gehrman, the moon appears to get bigger, and you look up, and an amazing shot of you looking up at the moon, and this crazy silhouette cut against it as it gets kind of a deeper and deeper red. This kind of very skeletal, spindly, tentacle-headed thing that comes down and kind of embraces you, right? Face first, like it's kind of going in for a kiss.
Yeah, it's yep. Yeah, it's gonna kiss your neck and touch your nipple a little bit.
Just a little, though.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just flick him, and
just make it stand up.
Yeah, just draw it to attention. It's a drill sergeant. And then, after it does so, and keep in mind, like again, this is the moon presence. This thing comes out of fucking nowhere. As a thing, because like you don't get the title card for it here.
No.
I had no idea what this is. It just looks like a weird skeleton tentacle, like collection of ribs and tentacles came down and hugged you, and then the ending happens. And like I could see this being one of the least satisfying endings, like without the context of the other ones. Like Jesus Christ, like I beat the optional boss, and this is what I get. Like who the fuck's this guy? Some Zeromus level shit. Like don't pull in this like new player out of nowhere in the end.
He'll be alive as long as people hate.
Yeah, I guess it's
It's a responsibility game.
Taking the bold stance that hate is bad. JRPGs.
Teamwork and friendship are good.
Yeah, goodness is good, but badness is bad. Thanks, JRPGs.
Well, I didn't think a whole genre could be a tautology, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are. So you got three types of characters. You got your goods, you got your bads, and you got your four, and you get your bads that used to be goods, your goods that used to be bads. That's it. Like. Anywho, that's JRPGs. But this is this ending that happens here is super tragic and weird.
Yeah.
So it cuts to later, and the doll is pushing around this wheelchair, and the camera changes, and you see that you're in the wheelchair, which probably makes an amazing ending for people who did some real monster shit. Like it made their characters look really, you can't like Bloodborne makes it harder to make super scary monsters than in Dark Souls 2, but you could make this probably look pretty silly.
Yep.
But now you are in the wheelchair and you have been aged, and it says, or the doll says, and so the hunt begins again, and you are now the host of the hunter's dream. Yeah.
So you have kind of taken Gehrman's place at the center of the very beating heart of this suffering engine.
Yes, and he wasn't happy, so you're probably not going to be happy either. Yeah. So it's kind of a bummer. You beat one of the optional bosses, and you get a really terrible ending for your character.
Yeah.
Nobody's happy to be Gehrman.
And so the hunt begins again.
However, if you ate the umbilical cords, the same cutscene, it begins the same way. The creature comes down, tries to give you, flick a nip, and instead you get this glowing presence around you, and it kind of shoves you off like the bug, and it begins another boss fight.
Like it puts one hand up by the corner of its mouth and draws it away, sees that there's blood, and then looks directly at you.
Yeah.
Finally, a worthy foe. Here we go.
Yes, it's Slival. But and this is is another boss fight, and it's a boss fight right after the last one. But you can Hunter's Mark out in order to one, do more game things if you want to fuck around with Gehrman's equipment, and but then two, in order to restock in order to fight the moon presence.
So this is, I think, maybe one of the only big monster fights that works for me.
It's not very big. It's not that much bigger than the Bloodstarved Beast.
Yeah.
Honestly, and it's also see-through. There's no bulk to this thing.
Right, yeah.
But do you like the design of the moon presence?
I can get into it.
I don't think I do. I think it's kind of a weaker design. I don't think it's very interesting looking.
I like that it's mostly exposed bone. It does appear to be kind of an incomplete thing. to me. I don't like that its head is mostly a mess of particle effect, or whatever that we mostly see. But like in terms of like design getting in the way of play, like we've seen from Cleric Beast onward for any other bosses that are like Cleric Beast, mostly in the chalices. It definitely does kind of work for me. It does appear to be a scrapper. Like its design matches the way that it moves and fights, which is really satisfying to me.
Which is interesting too, because the way that I would describe the way that it fights is bestial. Mm-hmm. Like it moves similar to any of the beast enemies you fight. It doesn't move like a kin or like an Eldritch Abomination, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I just wish that there was more elements to it. Mm-hmm. Like From is really good at making these boss fights or bosses that just look really weird and surreal and stuff. And this is just like ribs and tentacles, Mm-hmm. It's like it's like the world's most misguided theme restaurant. Like come to life.
The dinosaur and octopus barbecue.
Yeah, it's exclusively
open
like
for one night.
Racks of ribs and the most immoral food you can eat outside of foie gras.
Well, to be fair, geese are dicks.
Geese are dicks, but I don't think they should be corn tortured into delicacies.
I know. I was being facetious, but I'm very happy that it brought out the phrase corn torture.
Hello.
But yes, misguided barbecue in the moon prison.
There's so little to say about this fight.
Right? Like it's super basic. Like he has like 4 moves. He has a combo and then he has the AoE.
Yeah, you just get up. He's like a Dark Souls boss, like an early Dark Souls boss. Like get behind him and just stab him in the rib tentacles.
Yeah, and he presents to you. Like he's real enthusiastic about showing you his backside.
Yeah, he's like a cat.
This is kind of a victory lap almost.
Yeah, there's so little to say about it. I wonder if it was designed to be fought immediately after Gurman.
Oh, like they were assuming it was part 2?
Yeah, you had to be, like they wanted you to be weakened. Because I could see it being hard if you go into this with like 6 blood vials and, out of Quicksilver bullets and like the bullets I don't think are useful.
Yeah.
I can't remember if you can stagger him or not.
You can. Oh, you totally can. Yeah. Okay. He's actually one of the more easy bosses to stagger, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I just never had to. Like I just like dodged behind him and hit him and then just dodged away when he tried to hit me, which like doesn't make the boss bad. Like I like that as a boss fight. It's just weird how it doesn't read as intentionally as an anticlimax as King Allant or even Gwen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't read quite that anticlimactic. It just feels like it's a boss you'd run into 1/4 the way through the game. It's like that level of difficulty and complexity.
Yeah. But regardless, like he kind of just falls over with a stiff breeze. Yeah.
You just kill him, and once you do, it rains blood because he's a nightmare. Like you get a message: nightmare defeated, not a nightmare slain rather. Mm-hmm. So it's similar to the rain of blood after you defeat Rom.
Yes.
Who's not a nightmare, but you do get a nightmare slain. He's a nightmare if you're getting way into that kind of terminology. Mm-hmm. And then you get the final ending, and at least the weirdest one. And I really like what happens, and I still don't know if it's a good thing for
anybody involved.
Yeah.
Are you cold? Oh, good hunter.
So there's a small little slug-like creature, like tentacle creature on the ground, and the doll picks it up, and it says, "Are you cold? Oh, good hunter," and holds it just like a baby.
Yeah.
Same voice actress as the Maiden in Black, and it echoes the way that she talks to the Great One in Demon Souls.
Yes.
Like the "Oh, be good," the "Oh, are you cold?" Like that kind of like motherly treating of monsters. Like it's so good. Like I really, really love that. Like that line read.
Yeah, it's very evocative, and also this is a great this is the best ending for the doll, I think, because throughout the entire game, most of her dialogue has very much been like Intro to Religion 101, like God as parent. And this is an inversion where she gets to be, not just something that is created and beholden, but actually gets her purpose in, having domain over something else.
Yeah. And this is the big reason why Marcus thought that, like, or EMB thought that she's a great one, because great ones yearn for a child. Mm-hmm. And this is clearly her yearning for a child. I just don't think that anything else really supports it, especially with what we find in the DLC.
Yeah,
with her being a great one. Like, it's possible, but I like to think of her as this simulacrum thing.
Yeah,
more than that. And then you grow up to do slug shit, I guess. Like, you grow up and you solve slug crimes.
Like, should I design? I've got on my whiteboard here just a single sentence among several sentences that are shirt designs and postcard designs. I have Wolf Crime Patrol. Should I make that shirt?
I like Wolf Crime Patrol. I like Wolf Crimes.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we probably come up. I like some other. I think I like Slime Crimes more, like just because of the rhyme. So with Slivel and Rocket solving slime crimes.
But that's a little bit of an aside for business.
Yeah.
But yes, this is so you have. It appears that you have ascended now. My initial read on this was that, like, hey, you've actually done it. You have achieved what everybody wanted you to achieve, or everybody was desiring to do, right? Which is to, grow beyond our kind of human beastly idiocy, right? But I take this kind of as time goes on, and after I played the DLC, less as like a sure thing, because a lot of people have ascended. And they either became idiot gods, or they were harnessed, to get vials of their blood to do, like whatever. For by other movers and shakers in this world. Yeah.
And you are an infant at this, and like it kind of gives you this idea of scale. Like, we haven't seen very much of like the idea of a life cycle of a great one, but we have seen, the brand new ones look like you. If Provost Willem is ascending, he's been sitting in that chair growing fungus for who knows how long. Like, he eventually could turn into something cool, but he's not there yet. Turn into something powerful, and he has a long period of just getting killed for runes, ahead of him. So I don't know what this is meant to imply about the future. Like, I've read online that, like, oh, this is like a do-over because you're going to have the power to change that, or you're going to have the power to like be a great one. But if you're a great one, like with this ending, there's implied like insight. So this is the most insightful ending. Like, this is you have an understanding of the universe that dwarfs every character, every mover and shaker we've run into. Is that what you're going to do with it? Like, you have power that a human hasn't seen, or have the potential to get it.
Right.
Again, if it doesn't just end poorly with you getting murdered for runes, or just getting harnessed by another manipulator, what is that going to look like?
No, I mean, if history holds, what's going to happen is, like, this is the natural part of the life cycle. All of them lose their natural children, and so they seek a surrogate, right? The surrogate being an entire race, an entire species that can, that they can harvest and incubate and try and find the right thing to help transcend, and thus go on. So you're probably, in your cosmic travails, find another thing to, seek to impregnate after you lose your own.
Yeah.
Right.
You will not have, like, the old ones aren't happy.
No.
The great ones aren't happy. Like, nobody's happy. Like, it is, you're going to, at the very least, not be able, you're going to lose your child, and that's what happens. And probably, do something terrible. Like, find some somebody with Canehurst blood.
Yep.
And immaculately conceive.
Yeah.
Within them, like,
because your cares, it's to be assumed that if the great ones don't care about the fates of men or the opinions of men, as is really Lovecraftian, right? Like, it's going to play into the theme. Like, you're not playing that same game anymore.
Well, because there's like an item that says, like, the great ones are sympathetic in spirit, that is gets name checked a lot.
Yep.
But that is on an item and not shown very often to work out in the actual game, right? Like
Right.
there are times where like the Great Ones are summoned and will have done things, but it never works out like the way that the people who are they're sympathetic to want them to. So I don't, it does seem like you're gonna have different motivations, unless the idea is that like you are the, it's the third ending of Deus Ex, right? Like
Yeah.
you're JC Denton merged with the Helios, and you can use the your human mind to temper the Great One's power or what have you. But there's just so little there to necessarily apply that.
It runs against the theme so much too, because the moment anybody gets any kind of power, it
doesn't go well for them.
And just like this isn't a game where you're portrayed as doing the right thing at all ever. Like you could say I don't know, like I don't read this as being like ultimately a really big hopeful thing. Like maybe the nightmares ended, but like the doll is still there. Like
and the dream, the hunter's dream is still there. It's no longer on fire at that point. So if the fire was supposed to symbolize it's served its purpose, it comes back. Something like that's where this cutscene takes place. As soon as you get and we want to hear your thoughts on this stuff too. And we have some kind of recontextualization, not so much about what the three endings mean, because that stayed pretty steady with the DLC, but kind of what the hunter's dream means and what was going on with Bergenworth and the hunters from the DLC. And I'm looking forward to talking about that. So we want to hear your interpretations about it. I'm not closing off. I'm just saying I want to stop talking about the endings.
Yes.
Because the thing I do want to talk about is, one, when you hunter's dream or you hunter's mark back into the dream, the doll still says German's waiting for you, which bums me out. Two, you're immediately booted into New Game Plus, and unlike every other Souls game, there's no diegetic explanation for New Game Plus.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Like, this feels like a finality thing. Like, why is there a New Game Plus in this game? Like, is it because of fucking chalices? Is it because you want those to transcend the New Game Plus cycle? I mean, it's not because of that. It's because people expect it. But there's so little reason for it. Like, there's not a gameplay reason. Nothing's different. There's not a story reason that I can think of. Like, if you transcended to a Great One, that's the exact opposite of it. Like, there's not like... You broke the cycle, like I can't think of what else is going to break the cycle other than that.
Yeah.
Other than like literally transcending. So like, why is there a New Game Plus? I love that. Like, that's like, one of my favorite, like coming to that kind of feeling that I got to it from Dark Souls 1, where it's like, oh, like literally the way you break the cycle is you stop playing Dark Souls, because no matter what you do, it's a matter of time, but things are going to go back to shit again. And you're just going to play again. Like, I feel like in Dark Souls 1, the New Game Plus cycle is part of the, is part of the story. And then Dark Souls 2, they present that ending with the scholar ending, which I really love. And I wish that you would go into New Game Plus if you didn't choose that ending, and if you chose the scholar ending, you didn't.
Right.
And I thought that would be really powerful. I understand why they wouldn't do that, because people would be mad, but like that's the way it works in my headcanon, I guess. But in Bloodborne, I can't think of why that happens. And I don't like it, because it's such a gameplay thing that I feel like they had elegantly kind of squared with story stuff before.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing like all of these endings are pretty final. They put a book on they put a bow on why your character would be involved in this. You know, like, it doesn't make sense if you left that you would come back. It doesn't make sense if you became Gehrman that you weren't Gehrman the whole time.
Yeah, how'd you unget Gehrman? Did you get somebody to cover for you so you can go hunt some more? Like,
well, maybe Gehrman, after you kill him, he comes back as a hunter. Maybe you're playing as another version of Gehrman, and he's body hopping.
You Freaky Friday with him?
Yeah, you Freaky Friday. Yeah. He's body hopping.
Yeah, body hopping.
Yeah,
knocking. Yeah,
and
the clips, so don't come knocking.
And if you're a Great One, you don't care. Like, fuck this nightmare. I've got other horrors to take part in.
Like, you don't care, and also I think the idea is that you don't have the capability to care.
Yeah,
at the very least now, like the fact that you're literally, kind of like a embryo, or like an infant, like the trophy of this childhood's beginning. Like, you're too young to care. Like, you have this new understanding that you're going through. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't like that there's New Game Plus in Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I don't think it fits.
The only difference that I spotted, and there's really nothing that I've seen to support, like, not support, but like to say there's any more. When I did New Game Plus to get the living string, key items are just replaced with Kin Cold Blood 12s.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I could see that being more of a gameplay consideration than anything.
Oh, definitely.
Studios don't feel cheated. Which is cool. I'm glad they did that. But it doesn't feel lore significant that all of unless like it's literally you step back and you're hallucinating all three of the endings and it's all a dream and it's all a cycle. And if that's the case, that sucks, right? Like
dreamy weemy woo.
Yeah, that's what we didn't want from this game when dreams were introduced.
And that's what we're avoiding talking about here, which is which of these is the dream, which is real. When you wake up, are you going into your own dream? Is this some liminal state in between? Like, I think that both of us are kind of, we have this inertia towards like something that has narrative consequence and isn't a cock tease.
Yeah, I feel like you can't have, I mean, that's why it's a cheat, right? Like you can't have it just all turn to be a dream. You also, one thing that Bloodborne, as much as I've thrown like a little bit of shade at Bloodborne throughout like the season, I really love this game, but it's not, me loving it and having problems with it isn't enough, I guess. But the idea being that like, that liminal state stuff, they did something really great with it where it is not, it's probably the least cheap that's ever felt for me. Like, because the specifics, assuming these endings are true, everything leading up to it being a little bit undetailed and unfocused, like I think it works. And I was tweeting about this. I wonder how much, I don't think this is the reason they did it, but an unintended benefit to that liminal state stuff is that it puts Vaseline over the cracks of the fact that the game has fewer opportunities to give the player direct information. So like you design a reward system like Bloodborne, where you have like a third of the opportunities or less of lore delivery vehicles, right, than you do in the Souls games. Like this one like added benefit is Dream thing is that like it just patches over some of those rough spots. Like part of it is the story is more direct and there are fewer dead ends and the like, but part of it is also that like those little details, I felt myself more willing to follow feelings than feeling to, the need to nail down objective truth on this game more than other games. Yeah.
And, anything that relies on dream logic or, kind of this absurd stuff really does play more into symbolism and theme. And like by making that conscious choice, they probably decided to play to their strengths here, as opposed to putting stress on the weaknesses of the structure they ended up with in terms of the way they deliver information.
And totally. And like I love that people are that this is still being torn apart and examined and everything from a lore perspective. Some of the bending over that people will do to make some of these circles in this game feels, just unnecessary. Like it's, again, I would never take it away from you if you're having fun. That's great. If this is what you believe, it's great. But it just feels like slightly contrary to the looseness of how it's presented. Like if the idea, if you accept that Bloodborne is the idea to get across this theme and this feeling, it does a great job with it, and the endings work really, really well, and it works fantastically as like a story. And if because the DLC in my mind didn't complete the picture as just kind of recontextualize some parts of it and explain some things that weren't as in like Dark Souls 1, they're not as key to the actual central plot. Like they felt like they were detailing side stuff. If you accept some of that, like it's one of the best like front to back stories that they've done. Like it's really, really good. Like I'm just talking some sugar, so to get out on record how much I love it. Like
I'm happy Loisters are continuing to do this, because I've yet to see something that was really like, I just no. Like all of it provides additional context and it's additional stuff to think about. By no means do I think that we're the last word on this, and please don't read that into this kind of wrap up. But it definitely does. I take delight in this because that's a little bit how I experience these games is on that emotional and thematic level. Is really I tend to follow my heart with them more than anything, and so to get something that works almost entirely on that level is very satisfying to me in the way that I tend to consume this stuff.
Yeah, me too. It's just this one does it stronger. Like this feels like even stronger of the author's intent. Which is and again, like when you say that reading these different interpretations doesn't take anything away, like it never took anything away. But now it just feels like there's just more possibility space. Like that could be the case. Like I feel like I have such a good understanding of the theming and stuff, and there are probably people who don't think that who are listening, but I feel like I have such an explanation that I'm satisfied with, that like the kind of the minutia theories of these little side roads doesn't interfere with anything that I already think about the game. So because I'm not attached to those explanations, like I'm not super attached to the origins of Canehurst, so I'm interested in reading what those could be. But it doesn't really play into my cosmology or my feelings of the game. So great, let's party. Like let's read it. I'm interested in it, but it doesn't, nothing, I don't feel threatened. Not that I ever really did, but I feel like zero sense of having my, I don't feel threatened.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't feel satisfied with my explanation as much as I feel satisfied with the product.
Yeah.
Or with what's on the page. Product is a gross word for this. But like it definitely does feel whole in a way that makes me worry that if this this has been a very successful game, and what companies like Sony who publish this tend to want to do is do more of them. And I'm going to be curious. We joked about, Bloodborne 2 is going to come out and be, change some stuff and be super flawed, and we're going to love it, and people are going to hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, given where we both landed on this and the way our thoughts have kind of crystallized around it, like where there possibly is to go, and how that will recontextualize our understanding of this right now.
The way to do, like, I would love to see a Bloodborne 2, and the way you would do it is you would just take some of the essential truths of Bloodborne and just explore an entirely different thing with very few connections.
Yeah.
Like the great old ones impacting a society is going to have different effects. I mean, it would, like, I'm describing Dark Souls too. People are getting mad. Like, I'm describing like, it's interesting to see how the curse affects other kingdoms.
Yeah. Well, we saw a little bit of that in this too, like the different sects and the way that they tried to pursue the same goal, right? Like,
yeah. But I mean, there's just a lot of ways that Lovecraft stories can shake out, where that like these cosmic being stories can shake out, and like, so you could do it. And if they say like Sony's like, hey, we really want this, and From decides to make it, like, I'll play it and I'll probably really like it.
Yeah.
Even if I don't end up thinking it's as strong as this one. But that's how I felt about Dark Souls 2 to Dark Souls 1. Like, I really liked it. Not as strong as the first one.
Yep.
That's fine. Like, I still would be, I want it to exist. And not least of which because I like doing the show.
Oh, yeah.
So.
We got to kindle that fire, my friend.
Yeah,
got to stoke that lamp.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's so fun to do, and it's also had a big impact on my real life. So
yeah,
it is. I don't want to see it go, and and I also, even just mechanically, like, I have my complaints about Bloodborne mechanically. Again, this is me clarifying at the end of season how much I actually like this game. Yeah. I just feel like it's my job to like look, to, if there are things that don't work, like I have to, I'm going to say it. But even mechanically, if there's just another Bloodborne. If they make Lords of the Bloodborns or whatever, like, I'll still play it. Like, I want to play another game that kind of takes some of these ideas mechanically and does them. I'm interested.
Yeah. See how much they can sharpen that blade.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the problems I had with Bloodborne mechanically, like, would be so easy to fix. Not easy. Like, I mean, nothing is easy in game design, but like, they felt like they would be adjustments that could be made. They feel very possible to fix.
Yeah.
So I would love to see them, and that would, even if the story is not as good, I would still love it and pick it up day one and love covering it and talking about it. Do you like, what about what are your wrap up thoughts on Bloodborne? I guess it's not really wrap up, but
it's not really wrap up. It's hard to put that on here, but I was satisfied in the first play. I ended up getting the getting this ending, not this ending. I ended up getting the weird I am now a space baby ending.
Yeah.
Which
Slug Mayor.
Yeah, the mayor is slugged down.
Yeah.
So I felt good, and it's, my appreciation was only deepened, by talking through it with you and with our many guests. I'm a little bit kind of bummed out that it's a bit more slight on the stuff that you can talk about as opposed to just feel. It ultimately comes back down to why it's dissatisfying to talk about dreams. Just because of that, there's less rocks to kind of rub together to see if there are any sparks. But what this does for me is show me two things, which is this team, even if they decide to stop doing Souls games, they can take this kind of core mechanic that, you know, it's possible to improve, right? Like, you know, this style of game, and, you know, change it up and make it feel appreciably like a different game, and also change up the story. The way that information, the way that kind of themes and narrative are delivered in order to give you something that does feel so incredibly different. I mean, over the past year, this has not been a Souls podcast. This has been a Bloodborne podcast, and that is incredibly satisfying. And so it gives me a lot of hope for kind of the future of this kind of game, that Bloodborne can come out feeling so whole and feeling so satisfying and being so fun to play. And it has one foot kind of in the past, and there are many different places for that future foot to go.
Yeah, like if this is Dark Souls through a lens of like a Bayonetta style, you know, dodging, timing based combat and fast paced and aggression and stuff, like what is Dark Souls crossed with something else look like? You know, or that kind of same kind of you know, a lot of that same kind of design ethos and everything, but with something different, totally different, and like that would be cool. I don't know if they're going to do it. Like they say they're not going to after Dark Souls 3, but I'll see. You know, it's always hard for me to imagine people making decisions that result in them getting less money. I don't think that happens in the real world. I think that you drive a dump truck full of money up to From, they'll make Bloodborne 2.
But I mean, so I hear the, you know, we're not going to make any more Dark Souls games, as in like Dark Souls 3 is going to be the end of this story, and the end of that kind of world and that realm and those ideas. But Bloodborne has proved to me that they have other ideas.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
I mean, I think in that actual interview, they say a couple things of like, you know, they're like, oh, nothing like that and stuff. But what do they mean by like that?
Yeah, that's,
you know, that's the thing. Like, do they mean like it in that it's a sword based, you know, medievally kind of thing, or does it mean that they are going to even start explaining different themes, you know, with it? Like, there are lots of different things that could be done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. I have hope. As always, the end of these seasons, and this isn't the end of the season, always reveal that I have a lot of hope.
I'm really looking forward to Dark Souls 3.
Oh my gosh, me too.
One thing that Bloodborne did was, as much as I did like it, it really made, like, taking that break. And then I know that like Bloodborne 3, or Dark Souls 3, I haven't looked at any of the stuff of it, but you know, from hearing people talk about it, like it's supposed to be faster paced than Dark Souls, you know, and things like that. But like, I'm really looking forward to going back to like that style of movement and interaction and everything.
Me too.
And you know, that kind of like, oh, like I can play a magic user and like learn about cool, weird colleges, like magic colleges.
Yep.
Like I want the sound sorcerers of Venheim back. Like I want, like I'm so looking forward to that shit. Like not those people specifically. I don't mean like, oh, let's finally get to see what happens in Venheim. But I mean like that kind of detail that fires my imagination in a D&D way rather than like a Call of Cthulhu way. I'm looking forward to getting back to that.
Me too.
Yeah. Super excited.
4 months, man.
Yeah, that's very soon. So the and you know, we'll get, as we get closer, we'll talk about that, and we have more Bloodborne episodes up, because the Bloodborne gifted us with a fantastic DLC, which is you know, again, from Software does DLC better than any other company, I think, bar none. Like that I've played. Like I can't think of any company that does this as well.
They do it well by making expansions.
Well, yeah, totally. In a really cool old school PC way. Like this is like Throne of Ball. You know, it's not like you know, just a mission pack or like a set of levels. Like it is really significant and excellent. So I can't wait to talk about that. I didn't actually fight the Moon Presence again because I wanted to be able to walk through the DLC areas again. Even though I don't know if I'll go through the whole game to play the bosses again, but I'm looking forward to even just looking through the walking through the areas. So.
So Gary, what is our plan for covering the DLC?
So we're doing the DLC in 3 episodes, but not 3 appendixes.
Right.
Because there is, you know, a lot to these areas. They function as discrete areas. If they were part of the main game, they'd be their own episode with appendixes. But we want to kind of get a move on a little bit, and then also, you know, I think we want to put it like we're going to put a pin in it, you know?
Yeah.
With this stuff. So we're going to cover the DLCs for a month, covering them in order with the Hunter's Nightmare, the
spoiler and the spoiler.
Oh yeah, the spoiler. Hunter's Nightmare. You guys probably already know that. You guys got the item and stuff. But and also those words might as well be interchangeable in Bloodborne. I won't tell you the other ones.
Yep.
But play the DLC if you don't want to hear us spoil it, because starting next episode, everything that happens in the DLC.
Oh yeah, wide
is on
open.
the tape. Yeah. So we're doing that with 3 guests, and then we're doing 1 appendix. So if you have things to say about any part of the DLC, write them into us at duckfeed.tv/contact. I have 2/3. I have 2 1/3 of guest umbilical cords lined up, but I'm still working on the 3rd one, and I'm still waiting on confirmation for our first guest. So it will be one of 2 people, and they're both great, but I don't know who yet. So we'll announce that on Facebook and Slack and the like.
Yeah. So this is the first episode after Christmas, which is one of the winter holidays here. I'm going to give my usual, hey, everybody be safe right here. If you have any Amazon gift cards that you're going to be using, that is a popular gift, consider going to duckfeed.tv/tipjar and using the Amazon links there. I know we mention this a little bit every episode, but I cannot emphasize enough, A, how much you guys have killed it this month. That goes a tremendous way towards helping support the network. And B, there's still, that's still something you can do that does make a big difference for us.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost you anything extra.
Right.
It's just an extra click. It's a click tax.
Yep.
You can also, if you want to donate directly, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/DuckFeedTV, where you get access to episodes a day early. You get bonus episodes of some of our other shows and various other things, including access to our Slack channel, which is, again, the internet's premier spot to get help with Chalice Dungeons.
Yep. So let me take a moment to say this here, Gary, since we are about 4.5 months into this experiment with running a Slack channel. Holy shit, is our community amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. Like it's really fun to have smart people to talk about games with at any time. And they do good work, and they also, something that I've figured out is like, they just exist without us at this point. Like we've created an artificial intelligence where, like, I'll pop in and stop in on a couple channels and talk and stuff, but they just are all friends with each other. We don't even need to be there.
Yeah.
Like it's the big ones are watching the little ones. Like we don't have to. Grandpa and uncle don't need to be hanging out.
Yeah. No. So you outnumber us, and you're pretty good at outnumbering us. So we appreciate everybody who has helped make that such a great place to be, and we welcome anybody who is looking for a kind, supportive place full of smart people to come join the ranks. And that is, you can do that through patreon.com/DuckFeedTV.
Yeah, and I think that's probably good for admin stuff.
I think so, yeah.
So join us next week. We're doing 1 appendix on the Endgame stuff that we just talked about, and then we're booping and bopping into the DLC. So until then, what should they do, Cole?
Well, they should remember, the night and the dream are long.
Yeah. Umbasa.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
All right.
Cool. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Like how we both hummed at the same time in the same pitch. I'm going to go get a beer real quick.
Okay.
So I can go to sleep right after this. BRB.
Cool. Yep.